I cut back on work to prove a point to my wife. My wife is usually an angel of a woman, but has recently gotten into a friendship with a woman whom I personally believe is a bad influence on her. Not in a patronizing way, more of a lay down with dogs, get up with fleas type of situation. I never said anything about her childishness or her very radical misandry, because frankly, it doesn't affect me. Until it did. A few months ago, my wife began pressuring me to do more around the house. Before I get an instant YTA, we already split chores and childcare. Admittedly, she had a bigger cut than I because she is a SOCHM, but I do most of the cooking, breakfasts and dinners. Lunch is her responsibility for her and the boys. I take out the garbage and I do laundry, and I deep clean the bathrooms once a week. I do also help with our boys' homework and such. She insists that I am not doing enough and that I should be doing more around the house. I tried having discussions with her, asking what she expected from me. Namely, all chores and child rearing should be my duty, it seems. And for months, it seemed to be going nowhere. She used the D word more than once when speaking on this, which felt manipulative. It boiled over when we were out with friends one night, and she began talking about how I never helped out and how I use her as a house slave. Her words. I will admit, I saw red. This next part is where I may be the asshole. I didn't say anything that night, but the next day I asked my boss to be given reduced hours for the next little bit, due to stress. And I took over everything in the house. I cooked breakfast and made lunch for the boys before I drove them to school. I cleaned the house top to bottom. I did every dish we had twice, and so on. My wife was blindingly happy and bragged to her friend that she finally had me worn in. She didn't lift a finger for around a month, then she began asking why we never went on dates anymore and complaining that she wanted to get her nails done as they were growing in. I explained that I had to take that out of our budget so we could continue to afford everything else, but we could absolutely have a movie night in, and I could paint her nails for her. She was unhappy with that solution, so I asked her if she would want to get a part-time job to pay for either luxuries. You would have thought I asked if she wanted to join a cult. She then asked if I could just pick up more shifts at work to cover her other expenses and used the phrase, "be a man," which I found more than a little insulting. I then asked her if she would be willing to go back to splitting the chores and such, which is when she began to catch on that the two were related. She yelled at me that I was being a manipulative asshole for doing this and even claimed it was financial, a word. I stood strong for a while, but now I'm questioning my methods because even I feel what I did was a bit underhanded. So am I the asshole? Relevant comments. Why are you still with her when she treats you like that? I love her with everything I got. She's an excellent mother, and honestly, before she met this friend, we were both blissfully happy to the best of my knowledge. How did she suddenly notice that she wasn't getting her nails done or going out on dates? Did you block the credit card from everything but the grocery store? No. For one, she has her own card, though we do only have one bank account. I set her nail and hair appointments because she hates making phone calls, and she asked why I didn't take her out anymore. She could have spent from the card without saying anything, I suppose, but upon budgeting, we would have been in trouble if 300 plus was gone from a night out with friends. More about his wife and their relationship. She had always wanted to be a Sam before we got together. I try not to say this part, because while her two boys are not mine biologically, they are my sons. But being a single mother was incredibly taxing for her, because working in the public was too much. I had a bit of experience with being a single father myself. I have a son of my own, but I was looking to advance my career and was more than happy to take over the bills for a lessened load at home. You're paying to raise another man's children. I do not like this comment. Those are my kids, no one else's. And regardless of what happens with their mother ever, I hope those boys know that. More about how things have changed. Oh God, I can tell you, but it may be a bit mundane. When we first got married, she would give me shoulder and back massages every day after work and have my favorite music playing when I opened the door, even though she hates bluegrass. She would make my coffee while I was getting dressed. She made sure to pick up extra crunchy peanut butter from the store, even though I'm the only person who likes it. We would have movie night twice a week with the kids, and a date night to ourselves once a week. I have always had trouble sleeping, and I don't want to take pills for it, so she always had the bed ready for me tai-tai, a heating pad already turned on, and my pajamas on the bed. She would run her fingers through my hair until I fell asleep, and would wake me up herself instead of the alarm, because she knew it put me in a better mood. None of which I asked for. She's a good wife and wanted to because she knew that that's what I liked, and she did it. She hasn't done a 180. Some of this is still true. At least it was until I cut down my hours. That was really when she stopped doing anything at all. And right now she's pissed, so I'm on the couch. Awake and regretful. Personally, I think she's stubborn. I don't think she even really wants it. She just wants to prove that I would do it if she asks. She has a troubled history with men, and that's why I tend to be forgiving when things do happen. Troubled history with men? It's not something I'm comfortable talking about. But believe me when I say what happened was not her fault. OP is voted NTA. Update post, April 26, 2023, 6 days later. Title: How do I explain to help my sons to understand their mother is going to rehab? I have never been in a situation like this. I am a former addict myself, but I didn't have children then. See my last post for more clarification. Editor's note. I tried several different engines and search tactics but couldn't find any other last post besides the ATA one. But the gist of it is that my wife and I recently had a blowout argument where she admitted to using 2 substances for several months and has agreed to get checked into rehab, which we are currently setting up now. How the hell do I bring this up to them without them being judgmental or hateful to their mother, or worse, falling into the same mental space I am in? I don't want to lie to them, which is what my wife wants, but I am failing to see an alternative that won't destroy them or the respect they have for their mother. I am swimming blind here, and I have barely slept since this all came out. Any and all advice is appreciated. Thank you in advance. Relevant comments. I think it depends. What was she taking? Klonopin and Adipex that she was buying from her friend. She also admitted to having tried coke and several other prescription narcotics, but those were the only 2 she did often. Was this the friend that turned her on to radical misandry? Yes. Though it's come to light that it wasn't misandry she was being taught, but flagrant drug usage. I have told her that she goes no contact with this friend, or else she will be facing divorce along with everything else. How old are the kids? 9, 12, and 14. Update, post 2, April 30th, 2023, 10 days from OG post. Title: I yelled at my wife. See my profile for details. But I was driving my wife to the rehabilitation center we decided on. On the way, she was screaming at me about how she can't believe I'm humiliating her like this, explaining what was happening to the boys, and making her message her dealer friend that they would not be hanging out or using together anymore, about how she doesn't want to go and that I am a controlling monster, and how threatening her with divorce and taking primary custody of the boys was too far and I was insane, and I just took it and took it and took it until I just couldn't. And I screamed at her. I screamed that the woman I met would have rather died than had a pillhead junkie around her sons, and how she disgusted me, and that I don't know if she knew how much I was considering leaving her, not because of the addiction, but the way she was fucking acting, like she hadn't brought drugs into our home, around me, a former addict myself, and around our boys. That I'm beginning to hate her for doing that. That she was becoming exactly what she always cried about her mother being, and that she was lucky I was here to see it before what happened to her goddamned sons. It makes me sick to say, but watching it sink in just how far she had spiraled felt good. Watching her realize that her actions have consequences was nice. She yelled a few more times that I was an abusive asshole or whatever, but she was still crying, so I felt her heart wasn't in it. I plan on speaking to a lawyer. I don't want to divorce her, but I don't know how healthy our relationship could possibly be after this. I know yelling like that was wrong, but I don't feel bad. And that is the part that makes me think that maybe I shouldn't be married to her anymore. For her sake and my own, I don't know what else to do, and I'm so pissed that she detonated C4 in every bit of our life. Source comments, I believe I'm going to have to divorce her, and it's wrecking me. I don't want to. I still love her, but I don't know if I trust myself around her, and also not to use myself. I have been closer to relapsing this week than I ever have been. Update post 3. May 12, 2023, 12 days from last post, 3 weeks from first post. Title, She Was Cheating. Before you read, please know this is a vent post. I normally would never be like this, but I am beyond okay and need to get this poison out of my head before I go anywhere else with it. She was fucking cheating. The drug-dealing friend sent me fucking videos of her dancing and grinding on this ugly hick-looking bastard. I am goddamn destroyed. The boys are staying with my mother for a few days, and I'm taking the next week off work. I'm so done. I have never been so angry in my goddamn life. She was so goddamn smug sending it, in case you don't realize you're replaceable to her. Well, the free ride stops here. I hope she can get on Medicaid for her Suboxone LMFAO. I'm done. I saved the video immediately, and I'm going to see a lawyer ASAP. I can't tell anyone yet, because I want to do this shit right. Thankful as fuck my parents insisted on a prenup with what I at the time thought was an inhumane cheating clause. Never been cheated on before, and I feel like tearing my goddamned hair out. I genuinely never thought she would turn out to be such a scummy piece of shit. I cannot handle this. I am not physically able to handle this. I haven't been able to keep food down, and I drank for the first time in over a decade last night. Then I woke up and had to pour the rest down the drain because I am about to spiral, and my boys don't need both mom and dad in rehab right now. I am so close to losing my goddamned mind. Also, believe what you want, but stop sending me private messages about how I should take down the posts or that posting about my personal relationship with my wife is wrong. Please, leave me be. It will not work. This is the only place I can talk about this shit. Latest update post, July 19, 2023, 3 months from OG post. Title, My soon-to-be ex-wife is in the hospital after a suicide attempt, and I feel like a monster. You can read my other posts for more context on what happened to get here, if you like. But the short of it is I was blind to my wife's addiction until she admitted it, and went to rehab. While she was in rehab, I was sent evidence that she had been cheating, often, and with more than one person. I have been working on filing for divorce, while she's in rehab, not just for the cheating, but because with that on top of everything else, and myself nearly sinking back into my own addiction due to the stress of the situation, I couldn't stand to even think of her anymore, and there's no healthy relationship that has room for that mindset. I honestly didn't want to be in a room with her again, to try mediation or counseling, due to the fact that the last time I was alone with her, I raised my voice and at the time even felt she deserved it. I of course now know that me doing that was terrible and could be considered abuse, yet another reason I should not be in a relationship with this woman. I moved all of her belongings to our guest room minus the pills I found hidden in her beside table. I took pictures of those in their hiding spot, then flushed them. I also removed her from my bank account and credit cards. I spoke to my boys, explaining the situation without demonizing their mother to the best of my ability, and they seemed to understand. I have no intention of abandoning them, and blood or not, they were my sons. Then she came home. The boys were and still are away at camp, a birthday present paid for by my mother. She was quiet, eyes on the ground after the moment I picked her up at the facility all the way home. Once we got home, I led her to the guest room silently, and she didn't take it well, crying before she could even take the first step. Throughout the next couple weeks, I let her get settled, and though I stayed carefully neutral, I know she could tell something was coming, but I wanted to be as fair as possible and try to let her get used to being out before I said anything, as that was one thing I myself hated about when I left rehab. Everything was flying at me so fast, I didn't have time to breathe. Finally, I asked her to sit on the couch and I began explaining to her that I do not believe I can continue being married to her and that I wanted divorce. I should have known her reaction was all wrong. She didn't say anything at all. She only nodded and cried quietly as I spoke. I explained that I did not intend to hurt her, but I could not be married to her anymore, and that maybe both of us should focus on being the best parents we can be. I told her I had no intentions of kicking her out, and that because of our prenup, the divorce should be cut and dry and she should be safe to begin looking for employment now, and once she has a job, I will help her find an apartment. At this, she stood and walked to her room. I let her because I thought she must have been overwhelmed, and this talk could wait. She didn't come out at dinner time, and I weighed whether I should leave her alone or not. Eventually, I decided to knock on the door and ask if she was hungry. Long story short, she had smuggled pills into my house somehow, or she had a stash I was unaware of, and had an overdose, and was dead for several minutes in the ambulance, and she's in a medically induced coma because the doctors aren't sure exactly how much damage she's done to her brain, from what they've said. I feel like an absolute monster, like I am the scum of the earth, like I should have just said nothing, like I should have just dealt with it, just held it in and stayed. I am responsible for this and it kills me. I may not have the same love for her as I did, but I do feel so very sorry for everything she's been through. It's killing me. I haven't told my sons yet, and I am debating waiting until they're back from camp so they can have a little more time without this on their minds on top of everything else. I am sorry for the grammar and such. I don't have the energy to edit this, but wanted to get this off my chest. Relevant comments. Where's her family? Not my story to tell, but she doesn't have much family alive, and the ones who are she's no contact with. She has other friends, but I don't know which ones were enabling. They all know what's going on. I messaged all her friends, except the dealer, though she knows now, I know from messages she sent me. She hasn't shown up to the hospital though, possibly because she thinks I would throw her out, which I would be tempted to do, to be entirely honest. A couple of her other friends visit all the time. Yes, she's no contact with her mother, ironically, because of her mother's addiction and bad treatment of her. The rest constantly insisted she should see her mother, and 2 times even took her boys to her mother's house without her permission. One more clarification on the kids. Yes, because all of our children are from previous relationships. I have adopted the 2 eldest, who aren't mine biologically. Why he did it at that point? I wanted to do it while she's in rehab, but my therapist told me to reconsider, so I did. I was so angry when I found out about the cheating, I wanted to take her belongings to her dealer's house and leave them there. But I knew that was wrong. I knew that once my anger wore off, I would regret it. So now all I want to get the divorce started and over with as soon as possible, so that I can begin trying to pick up the pieces and move on with my life. On top of that, I didn't want to lead her on, and I could tell that she knew something was coming because I can't even stand her touching me anymore. It makes me physically ill. If I had known she was going to kill herself, I could have closed my eyes and grit my teeth and let her do whatever. But honestly, even now, after what she did, I know that isn't feasible for me. I still found myself wanting to start fights, to yell, and I know that I am not a strong enough person to be in a relationship with someone who hurt me that much, who disrespected me, my home, and my children that much, who took my own past experiences with drugs into account so little that she brought them into my home, directly under the nose of myself and my children. Pun intended. This is as much kindness as I can afford to extend to her anymore for my own mental health's sake. One more comment from Opie as of July 24, not really an update but including it here. Not awake yet, I took the advice of some of the commenters and went to go get my boys to see if they wanted to see their mother. I explained the situation to the best of my ability, age appropriate, and asked if they wanted to see her. They all agreed to see her eventually, but the eldest only wanted to go to support his brothers. I'm concerned about the anger he is building towards his mother, and I do intend to talk to him about it, but I also don't want to tell him how to feel, or tell him that his feelings are bad and wrong. I was already working to get them into therapy, but I'm going to expedite that. Edited to add a bit more info from the comments. 2 of my 3 sons are stepsons, but I adopted them. They never had a father due to their bio dad being an absolute piece of shit. My biological son is the youngest and was born to a girlfriend who is not in the picture and doesn't want to be. My sons are 9, 12, and 14. She had 2 jobs when I met her, though were both shit jobs, and I had been looking into finding her a better one. When it comes to the dealer, she was getting the drugs from her friend who is a woman, and a few of the men who she cheated with. There have been multiple pictures, videos of her dancing on being inappropriate with men since that post. I haven't blocked the friend because she sent me a large amount of proof of infidelity for the divorce. And in that post, the hick she was dancing on was a man. Perhaps you are confused because her woman friend sent the video? Perhaps my wording was bad. I apologize. And yes, I do know that trauma is the gateway to addiction, as I am an addict and my own CSA from my uncle and general abuse from both my parents. We went to counseling during my rehab, and our relationship is much better now, but growing up was very bad. I can't say I know what made her start using, but I can say I know she had a rough childhood and even worse teen years. Editing to add, regardless of sexual identity, if I found out my wife was engaging in sexual acts with women, I would also consider it cheating. She was doing other sexually inappropriate things. But no, I didn't get any straight-up sex tapes. I would rather not go into it further, but I think you can get my drift.